item is the oath of office.
I, Riley Gullett, solemnly declare I am a Canadian citizen. I am full age of 18 years. That I am an elector of the municipality of Oakland-Wawanesa. That I am not disqualified under any provision of the Municipal Act or any other act of legislator from being a member of the Council of the Municipality of Oakland-Wawanesa. That I will act faithfully in office without fear, favor, or affection, and will truly, faithfully, and impartially, to the best of my knowledge and ability, execute the duties and responsibilities of the office. And I make this solemn declaration, constituously believing it to be true or knowing that it is the same force and effect as if I made under oath and by virtue of the Canada Evidence Act.
You to sign it there.
Welcome to the council table, Councillor Gullett. You. The municipality of Oakland-Wawanesa would like to acknowledge and we recognize that we're operating on Treaty 1 and Treaty 2 lands, being the original territory of the Anishinaabe and the Dakota Nations and the homeland of the Métis Nation. The adoption of the agenda, be it resolved that the agenda for the August 19, 2025 meeting be accepted as presented with the addition of an animal control issue and discussion on water lines and water treatment plant upgrades under the in-camera session. Moved by McDonald, seconder. Councillor Fisher. All in favor? Be it resolved that the minutes of the July 15, 2025 regular meeting of council be hereby approved as circulated by Councillor Hatch, seconder Councillor Fisher. Any errors or omissions? All in favor? Be it resolved that the minutes of the July 31st, 2025 special meeting of council be hereby approved as circulated. Moved by Mr. McDonald, seconder. Councillor Jones. Any errors or omissions? All in favor? And as it's finance, be it resolved that the August 13th, 2025 general accounts payable being checks number 8181 to 8182 and 8184 to 8248 and the amount of $789,268.85 be hereby approved. Moved by Mr. Fisher, seconder. Councillor Gullett. Discussion. All in favor?
Councillor Fisher, could we get you to help?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Be it resolved that the August 13th, 2025 general accounts payable check number 8183 to Maureen Fisher in the amount of $250 be hereby approved. Moved by Councillor Donald, seconder Councillor Jones. Discussion.
Regarding,
Election.
oh yeah,
All in favor? Thank you.
Think we can get.
And be it resolved that the record file of 368 being staff payroll for the period July 5th to July 18th, 2025 in the amount of $18,255.03 be hereby approved. Moved by Councillor Hatch, seconder Councillor Gullett. Discussion. All in favor? Be it resolved that direct deposit 369 being staff payroll for the period July 21st to August 1st, 2025 in the amount of $17,205.05 be hereby approved. Moved by Councillor McDonald, seconder Councillor Fisher. Discussion. All in favor? Be it resolved that direct deposit 371 being staff payroll for the period August 4th, 2025 to August 15th, 2025 in the amount of $17,297.28 be hereby approved. Moved by Counselor Dolan, seconder. Fisher, discussion. All in favor? Be it resolved that direct deposit 370 being council indemnities for the month of July 2025 in the amount of $4,581.10 be hereby approved. Moved by Councilor McDonald, seconder, Councilor Hatch. Discussion. All in favor? Be resolved that the August 13, 2025 utility accounts payable being checks number 1312 to
1324.
1324 in the amount of $12,927.18 be hereby approved. Moved by Councilor McDonald, seconder. Councilor Fisher, discussion.
I just have one question. What is the Neptune subscription?
That's for readers.
Yes,
Is that
that's the water
okay.
meter readers.
All in favor? Be it resolved that the statement of revenue and expenditure report to July 31st, 2025 be received as presented. Moved by Councilor Hatch, seconder. Councilor Jones, discussion. All in favor? Carried. Be resolved that the bank reconciliations for the month of July 2025 be approved as previously circulated. Moved by Councilor Fisher, seconder. McDonald, discussion. All in favor? Carried. Okay. We have 2 delegations.
We do, but we also have a public hearing that is scheduled for 9:15, so we should maybe do some of the other stuff first.
You don't always think you'll go over the 9:15 mark, you're saying?
Right.
Okay. So we'll go to, yes, we'll do, communications.
Sure. Under the order of communications, council has received information from Age Friendly Manitoba on the Community Collaboration Grant Information Session. There's information from the Association of Manitoba Municipalities dated July the 11th, July 16th, 2 on July the 25th, July 28th, August 8th, and August 11th. Clean Farms provided information on unwanted pesticide and livestock medication collections. CPKC Police gave us information of crossing activities, and there was 2 of those. Federation of Canadian Municipalities provided communiques. They are dated July the 14th, July the 19th, and August the 11th. Heritage Co-op provided an update on having a grocery store within Wawanesa. MMSM provided their 2024 annual report, and that has been retained on file. Office of Energy Efficiency, Natural Resources Canada provided information on some of their federal funding. Rural Development Institute provided their August e-newsletter. STARS Manitoba provided their 2024-2025 mission records. We received a thank you from Payman Mushy. University of Manitoba provided some additional information on their Aggie bed push. What they are wondering is whether or not there's anyone within the municipality that could provide an escort for them as they traveled through kind of a bit of the parade route in Wawanesa. It falls on a Saturday morning.
Sorry.
And so I had indicated to her that that makes it a little more difficult. It's still during the time when harvest could be underway. Counselors could be involved with that. She did indicate that they've got a student in their class that lives in Wawanesa that they get to do that. But if there is any member of council who would be interested in escorting their push through Wawanesa, please let me know and I will let the university know. And the Wawanesa Community Foundation Incorporated provided information that grant funding has been approved, and that was put through by the fire department.
Okay. Be resolved that the above noted communications be received. Moved by Councilor Jones, seconder by Councilor Fisher. Discussion. All in favor? Okay, I'll go through committee reports.
Sure.
Okay, committee reports, Councillor Fisher, you have a written report, anything to add?
Nothing to,
Councillor Jones, you have a written report, anything to add to your report? Councillor Hatch, you have a report, anything to add?
going to report that Road 104 Cronin should be wound up today, and Dunray Road Cronin should be finished as probably by tomorrow noon.
Everything? Good. Councillor McDonald, you have a written report, anything to add to it?
No.
Okay. Nothing to add to my report. CEO report, anything to add to it?
Nothing to add.
Finance officer, anything to add to your report?
Nothing to add.
The works report. Fire chief's report. There.
We could do is ask Councillor Gullett if he has anything verbally that he
Yeah.
would like to add.
If you would like to have anything as far as you're concerned? Okay, be it resolved that the verbal and written reports be received. Moved by Councillor McDonald, seconder, Councillor Gullett. All in favor? Okay. Keep on going, unfinished business.
We could probably go back up and recess the regular meeting of council. Yeah, resolved.
Be it resolved that the regular meeting of council be recessed to allow council to hold a public hearing to receive representations from any person who wish to make them in respect to a variation application. Moved by Councillor McDonald, second Councillor Hatch, all in favor? Carry. Okay, so public hearing.
We do. So the variation application that has been received is for a property located in Wawanesa. And what they are wanting to do is to be able to build a bit of a deck and stairs up to their front door. In doing the measuring, it is indicated that the house is actually located a little bit closer to the front sight lines as well. And they would still need to do the 4-foot deck. I would let council know that to date, there has been no inquiries made to the office at all on this variation application. And if council did have questions, we would attempt to get a hold of Washington by telephone. So at this time, I would then ask if there is anyone in the audience who would like to step forward and make representation on the public hearing to allow for a reduction of the front yard setback on lots 1 to 6, block 6, plan 32, which is located on 357 Main Street. There appears to be no one.
Okay. Whereas all representatives in regards to the variation application V2 2025 to allow for a reduction in the front yard setback 25 to 14 feet. Therefore, be it resolved that the public hearing be concluded by Councillor Bell, seconder. Mr. Fisher, all in favor? Sorry, you have a question?
Mr. Chairman, could I just make a point to this? I just, being that it's on the curve where it's located, this home, I just wondered, like, with the foot deck is fine, but I wondered if they could have the stairs going off either end of the deck instead of coming out from the middle somewhere along the way, just so it's not quite as congested. That is what I was wondering.
I believe their drawings maybe indicates that the stairs are coming off the side.
Okay, that's all I was wondering. I didn't notice that in the drawing. So that's all my concern I had with that. If they come down there, it'd just be that much tighter.
The bridge out there's not much traffic on that portion as it is right now.
Oh, sorry, it might be in the drawings that she provided to the office versus yours, but yes, they were looking at come down off the side.
Okay.
Everything? All in favor? I will go to
Delegations.
applications.
Okay, and we have Isaac here at the table representing Brandon Community Planning, who is going to do a presentation to council on Planning 101. And I believe this has to do with some of the recent changes that have taken place to the Planning Act.
Thank you so much.
Yes, welcome.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. My name is Isaac. I'm from the provincial office here in Brandon. And I'm the community planner covering virtually the western part of Brandon region. And then you have the likes of Soris, Westland, or Whitehead, Oakland-Wawanesa, Boys and Bay, and two borders and so on. So, but and I bring greetings from my regional manager, Yus Richard, and he also extends his greetings to everyone and to the head and every member of the council. So this morning, it is my responsibility to also go to all the areas I cover to present what we call Planning 101 to member of the council, either after an election or on a yearly basis. So I'm expected to come here on a yearly basis to just update the council on whatsoever must have changed, either in the Planning Act or in any of the planning documents. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here this morning. So, and the presentation is going to be brief, and then I will also have set time for question and answer, but I will not be able to answer all the questions, but the difficult questions that I may not be able to answer, I will refer to my office and then either respond by email through the chief administrative officer who can send it across. So thank you once again. Yeah, I don't know, is there a presenting Islam?
I didn't receive a slide deck. If you would like to,
Project.
or if that would take a little bit of time, if you want to send it to me, I can make copies and you can walk through it.
Okay.
If you email it to me right now, I will go and do that.
I'm not connected to the internet.
Ah,
Okay. Sorry.
that's okay.
So I'll just present from my hand here, and I hope everyone will get the message clearly. So this morning, I'm going to talk about the Planning Act, the Manitoba Planning Act, the development plan, basically the Oakland-Wawanesa development plan, the zoning bylaw, subdivision, service standard, and then the role of committee of planners, and then the regional planning office where I work from. But however, before I continue, I want to just state that there are so many reasons we plan, and it is not just because it's a legislative requirement. One is for the public interest to prevent undesirable outcome and land use conflicts within the municipality or within the province as a whole. And also it's also an inclusive process that includes the community through public hearing or various open houses when the development plan is being processed. And also another reason why we also plan is for proactive practice. We don't want to be reactive to situation. We want to be ahead of the situation so as to avoid rush decision that could be costly or have severe impact on the environment. And another reason is for planning is for best decision making. And we usually do this through the community plan, local government, and what have you. And also it helps to guide resource allocation. That is, we're able to predict that the resource, we know the resources the municipality have, and then we're able to distribute it based on the capital available also. And another one, the document also for communication tools. That is, most of the planning documents and all this planning we do, we use it as a form of communication tool to the builders, the land developers, and business organization. And also the last reason why I would say we also plan is to attract investment or growth to our community. Is when we have some of these documents and we have this planning in place, We are just trying to tell any of the investors that this municipality is open for business, because today good planning is also good governance. So that is just one of the basic reasons why we at the planning office, we take planning so important. And I'm sure also at this level, at the municipality level also, we are also very concerned about planning also. But in Manitoba, we have what is called hierarchy of plans. We have hierarchy of plans, that is, we have the legislation and the regulation. These ones, like the Planning Act, the Provincial Land Use Policy, which we also refer to as PLOPs. We have the Planning Act, the Provincial Land Use Policies, all of these, and then the development plan are approved by the province, that is, by the minister. These three documents, the Planning Act, the Provincial Land Use Policy, and then the development plan, they are usually approved by the minister when any changes come, when there's a need for change. While the secondary plan, the zoning bylaw, the permit, and all other variation conditional use, they are approved by the local government. And when I say local government, I mean the council at this level. So if you hear me mentioning local government, I'm referring to the municipal or district plan. So that those are the things we have in the hierarchy of plans we have in Manitoba. And then also, I will now go deeply into each of those ones that I've mentioned also right now. I've talked about the Planning Act. The Planning Act provides legal framework for planning in Manitoba. It's like the backbone, it is the main structure for anything that we do in planning in Manitoba. It's a document that is very comprehensive and also detailed. It states the process and the procedure for having a development plan, that is, what should be the content of a development plan. That's why in the whole of Manitoba as a whole, the same content you will have in the development plan of Solis will also be similar to Oakland-Wawanesa. Reason being that though the content might be different, I mean the context might be different, but they have the same framework. You will always see that same order of how it should be. And then we also have the zoning bylaw, which is usually approved by the council, and then the conditional use. These are some of those details you have in the Planning Act that would state what should be required, what should be the content, and how things should be done. And in terms of describing notice and hearing, how notice and hearing take place, and how planning should be enforced in the province. Those are some of the contents of the Planning Act. So I will encourage us to also go through that document. If you have time, you can just browse Manitoba Planning Act and you see it's a very detailed document. And I will say it's like it's our own working document in the office, whereby if we have any question or any challenges or receive any concern from committee, we refer to the document and say, what is the Planning Act saying concerning this, concerning that? And then I'll go to the development plan. I'm sure we are all familiar with the development plan, which we have in Oakland-Wawanesa. And the one for Oakland-Wawanesa was adopted in, if I'm not wrong, June 2019. And then the zoning bylaw also was adopted November 2019. So the development plan is a long-term vision of how development should occur in the municipality of planning district. And then I'm sure we know the difference between municipality and planning district. The planning district is just when 2 or 3 or 4 come together and then they form a planning district. And the reason why some people or some municipality will form a planning district or join a planning district is just maybe they want to be able to complement they want to be able to manage the resources they have, the staff strength, and then for efficiency. These are one of the reasons why some municipalities will join a planning district. And then the development plan also provide direction for implementation of policies and subdivision. So anytime there's a subdivision, somebody is submitting a subdivision, because I will still get to that. We are the approving authority of subdivision because that's been dedicated to the regional manager to approve it on behalf of the minister. But when we want to approve any subdivision, the backbone or the main document we use for that is the development plan. So the development plan guides us because it's a comprehensive document, it's holistic, comprehensive, and all about Oakland-Wawanesa. We decide, oh, this is where the residential should be. This is the percentage of acres that is required in this environment and all of that. So, and it also stipulates what should be done and what shouldn't be done. So when someone is submitting subdivision, we look at all those restrictive policies that may hinder the person from going ahead. Or we also when we see that the subdivision is also is in line with what the development says, we also make sure that there is also a policy supporting it. We don't just say, oh, you can go ahead and subdivide. We also have to back it up with a policy in the development plan that support that this person can actually go ahead with this subdivision. So these are some of the content or policies we have in the development plan. And most importantly, the development plan has to be consistent with the Planning Act. Yeah, I must say that like preparing any municipality or any planning district, anytime they are preparing the development plan, it has to be consistent with the Planning Act. It cannot be varied because, and also it has to be consistent with the provincial land use policy. The provincial land use policy is the strategic document that states the core or area of interest of the provincial government. It's about 9 areas of interest. It talks about agriculture, natural reserve, highway transportation, all of that. So these are the main focus, the strategic area, the provincial land use policy. And then in the development plan also, it also talks about livestock operation and all of that. So, but when we are not talking about the plan, I mean, like if anytime you hear any planning officer or the CEO might be saying redesignation or designation, you just know that she's simply or the person is talking about the development plan. So anytime we are talking about the development plan, we usually use the term designation or redesignation. That is, when we say redesignation, it means there's a need for development plan amendment. But when we are talking about zoning bylaw, we usually refer to all those planner zones, zone A or R2 and what have you. But anytime you hear the word designation, we are referring to this document, the development plan. And one thing about development plan, that the Planning Act requires that every 5 years, the development plan must be reviewed. Every 5 years, the development plan must be reviewed. That is the requirement in the Planning Act for every development plan. However, there are some exceptions to some municipalities when they are preparing those documents, where they categorically state or say exclusive to this municipality, they can their own development plan after 8 years. And the reason being that they must have presented evidence that they are having either a slow growth in their municipality. So some municipalities that you will see that they review their development plan probably after 8 years or thereabouts. It's because those municipalities or planning districts are witnessing a slow growth. But however, every municipality or planning district are expected to review their development plan after every 5 years. And when they are reviewing it, there must be public consultation, and there are some key items that must be included in those development plan review. So not to bore us with make it a boring section, I also go to the zoning bylaw. I'm sure we are very familiar with the development plan because it's something I know we have gone through as probably as council and the head of council. The zoning bylaw also, when we are referring to the zoning bylaw also have to be consistent with the development plan. So that is why most of the time when a new development plan comes into place, there's also a need to review the zoning bylaw because the zoning bylaw has to be consistent with the development plan. And in the zoning bylaw, it specifically outlines areas where you can have permitted or conditional uses and states the minimum areas we meet here. And like I mentioned then, the maps in the zoning bylaw are usually in zones, while the maps in the development plan are usually referred to as designation. So I will go to the subdivision. Subdivision is just the division of land into parcel or lots. And sometimes it will also be when you have fragmentation of land, you want to consolidate this land. So it will also be subdivision. So subdivision is not only splitting a land that has one single title. That is, subdivision is where you have probably one land. You want to split it into different titles. That is subdivision. But sometimes you also have some fragmented lands around. You want to combine them into one single title. It also has to go through the subdivision process. And then the Planning Act also provides a framework for subdivision approval, and it must be approved by the municipality prior to consideration of approval by the province. What I'm simply saying is that anytime somebody is submitting a subdivision, it comes to our office first. It can also come to the CEO where somebody say, I want to subdivide, and then they direct them to our office. And then we give them a form to complete. Once they complete, then we have reviewed it with the policy. And when we review it, we'll tell them, oh, yes, you can go ahead because there are policies supporting your subdivision. But when we see that there are restrictive policies, we will not advise you to spend so much money because at the end of the day, council may not approve it, or probably for one reason or the other. So these are some of those things. But in the situation, and the council, when we now prepare the report to council, which I'm sure we must have received most of the correspondence sent to pass from us. When we send it out, we insert our own recommendation from the office, and then the municipality can also add their own conditions also that the applicant is expected to fulfill. After that, the council can either approve or reject the subdivision. But when the council approves, we are expected to also approve. Our office is expected to approve because we are the final authority in subdivision as dedicated by the minister to our office. So when council approve, we're expected to approve. But some occasions we arrive that council may approve that we can also reject. So that is just different. But when council approve, we are able to approve. But in some situations, if we find that the policy might not, or the subdivision might not meet up to some criteria and of the provincial land use act, we can reject even when council approves the subdivision. So that is just that. And anytime council is rejecting, according to the new Planning Act section 174.1, which was just reviewed, says that anytime council is rejecting the subdivision, they must state the reason why council is rejecting. So that is, council must actually state why they are rejecting. Because reason being that we've been to so many municipality appeal board whereby some subdivisions were rejected, and then we have the planning authority. We don't know why some of these subdivisions were rejected. So it has now been that if council is rejecting the subdivision, we must state the reason why they are rejecting. So that is, I think that is the main purpose under the subdivision. And then we have the subdivision standard. The subdivision standard is just to ensure that there's a timeline for every application. And those are the timeline that has been inserted in the new, under the reviewed Planning Act. It states that the completion of development agreement within 90 days, if council and the owner of the affected property are unable to agree on the time of condition, then the owner may appeal the matter to the municipal board after 90 days. So, and then for subdivision, we have two very type of subdivision procedure. We have the minor subdivision and we have the standard subdivision. So the minor subdivision in most cases, though they are rare, there are situations whereby there are policies. This one doesn't have any much implication, or it's kind of, there are so many policies supporting it. So those one will refer to them as minor subdivision. And within 60 days, the application are usually processed and then finalized. But subdivision, the standard subdivision usually takes about 90 days. So when somebody comes to our office and they say, oh, what is the time frame for this subdivision, that when we review it, we can either tell you that it's going to take 60 days or 90 days. So, and then when we also send a report to council, likewise, council is expected to get back to our office within 90 days to send back their resolution that they are approving the subdivision. But if after 90 days we don't receive any resolution from the council, the Planning Act states that it's assumed that council is rejecting the subdivision. So if we don't receive any resolution after 90 days, our office will assume that council has rejected the subdivision, and we will want to know the reason why council is rejecting it, like I stated earlier. And then we have the zoning amendment. It's expected to take 90 days, and the development permit application 20 days. And going to the next slide, which is the role that the planning office, what we do. We are the approving authority for subdivision, like I mentioned, and also we are the approving authority for public reserve closing. Yeah, public reserve closing. So anytime there's a public reserve, it's different from road closing. The road closing is under the municipality. The municipality is the approving authority. But for public reserve closing and subdivision, we are the approving authority. And then the lead member of the technical committee for livestock proposal. So anytime somebody in the municipality, an applicant is submitting a proposal for a livestock operation to be, wants to start the livestock operation, when they submit those reports and the proposal, we are member of the technical review in this aspect. And then also, we also help the municipality to interpret the Planning Act, because the Planning Act is still voluminous, and it's, like I mentioned, it's our working documents in the office. We help, so when sometimes we receive phone calls, concern and all of that, we go to the Planning Act, the provincial land use policy, to say, oh, these are some of those things that this is the way you should interpret it. This is what this policy and the development plan is saying, and this is how it should be addressed. And also, when it's time for the development plan to be reviewed, our office also provides a link to the funding of the development plan. That is, there's the provincial office that will provide which is now called from the grant of Safety Earth Community for All program. They provide 50% of the eligible cost of any development plan. So if the municipality, maybe in some years to come now, if we are planning to review the development plan, this particular office that will provide 50% of the eligible cost. It is the government of the provincial government already allocated that fund for anyone who wants to review their development plan or have any similar project. And then we help in the preparation of special mapping, and then we assist also in the preparation of development plan and what have you. And also we help to create maps. Maybe in the municipality, you have your development plan and then your zoning map. You want any of those copies, we also assist in creating those maps whereby you can put it in the office for accessibility and to be able to use it on a day-to-day basis. These are some of those key things we do in our office. And we have about 5 staffs in our office. The regional manager, I also have another colleague who is covering the eastern part of the Brandon region. His name is Devin, and I'm the one covering the western region. We have a subdivision clerk in our office. I also have the administrative staff. Then also I'll talk about the resources that are available to the council I mean, like the planning handbook. I don't know, maybe any of us have heard about it. It's online. You can just browse it. The planning handbook is just a summarized copy of the content of the planning act, just a summarized copy. And then every year we usually have the Manitoba Planning Conference, and the next one will be coming up next 2026 March. So the dates also will be made available. I'm sure the council will receive the notification by then. The council member, the head of the council are expected, are also invited to the conference where the various professional bodies and are also present for that conference. And then we share knowledge of the global idea of planning and what have you. And the last resource we also have for the council is the land use and development website. I'm sure most of us must have gone to that website, the land use development website, whereby you can see some of those. You can look at your old house, you can see some of those details and your properties and all of that. And I think those are the key things. And what you see on the land use development website, you see the municipal boundary, the zoning boundaries, the assessment parcel, and a very detailed one. And I think there's another map that will be coming up late September. Is the flood mapping. Flood map will be coming up, I think, late September. It's going to be released by the Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure, where the municipality will be able to see places that are liable to flooding and places where we won't expect anyone to build around the flood-prone areas. So these are some of those things that some of another document or another website that will be coming up and made available to the public. It's going to be launched towards the end of September, and I'm sure the municipality will be informed about that. And I think that is the end of my presentation this morning. Thank you for having me once again. And if there's any question, it's time for answers.
If there's any question?
I've got one quick question. When the province denies a subdivision application and the individual that wants to have subdivision makes an appeal, what's the timeline between the appeal process?
Yeah, it's usually takes up to 2 years now. Some in the past it's usually 1 year, but we have volume of subdivision appeals right now. And then that's why when we just receive an application and we see that, oh, it's a restrictive one, the policy is not going to support it, we just advise the client that, or the applicant, please don't go ahead with this subdivision, because at the end of the day, it may pass through the council and will finally reject it. You go to the applicant, it's going to be a lengthy process. There are so many people still on queue for that subdivision.
So if the council approves the subdivision, then goes to province and it,
Yeah,
yeah.
it comes to us and then we approve. So
If
once,
you denied it, like, so if we approve it, then the province denies it, is it still gonna take that to your process of appeal?
yes,
Okay.
because the applicant has to approve. The applicant has the right.
Anybody else?
If I could just confirm, Isaac, it's not a set 2 years. Like, it's not that there has to be an appeal decision in the 2 years. That's just the approximate time
Yes,
it's taken.
yeah, exactly.
Thank you very much, Isaac.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So be resolved that the presentation by Isaac of Brandon Community Planning be received. Moved by Councillor McDonald, seconder, Councillor Fisher. All in favor? Okay. Yes.
All right, next we have a delegation by Mr. Murray Kozak. If you would like to come forward, please.
Well, good morning. Morning.
I, where do you want me to start?
Go ahead.
Well, it's in regards to the work that was done out of the pit at Jeff's.
Okay.
So apparently there was a bit of communication problems from start to finish, just about. We had it, we're going by the specifications that you put out and the amount of yardages that would require.
In the tenders.
And the tenders, yes. And anyways, we had another customer that was, material was ready to be hauled by, and I got a phone call 10:30 at night, told me that somebody had already moved his equipment in to haul shale the next morning. So it would have been nice to know ahead of time what your schedule was, putting it ahead of what was happening at the pit. That's kind of what happened, and then there was an overburden problem because of that. And then we had to get Oakland municipal or Oakland Colony to come with their 7 to move material to accommodate the extra materials that was being hauled out, and they handed us a bill. So I was under the understanding that the contractor was looking after that part, and apparently he hasn't contacted Nathan.
Did we receive the material on that, the information on that?
I know there's been conversations between the manager of the pit and the owner of the pit with Public
I
Works.
am actually the manager now.
Yes, yes.
But
At the time the tender was announced, I believe it was still under the owner. So most of the conversation
I
was,
don't know if it was at that time, but whatever.
that was my understanding.
Okay.
As to whether or not there was any subcontracting required to get the additional shale, that I'm not aware of.
Well, there's a big difference between 400 yards and 10,000 yards. It's the size of the stripping that has to be done to remove the overburden. So now Jeff and I are both left to bear the cost of all this extra removal. That's what I want to find out. And so is he.
Can we get an administration to do some research into it and as to what the process was and what transpired? It was,
Well, we already know what transpired, nothing.
well, they're saying there's extra taken and et cetera. So
Mr. Chair, did Hodgson deal with the overburden issues that we had talked about, Murray?
He stripped more. That's what he stripped more. It was, Nathan's equipment that cleared most of it. He didn't, when he left, he left. And we got pictures of it, that if you guys got time to look at what the mess is, we gotta deal with now. There won't be a heck of a lot coming out for a while until that's dealt with. That's the crazy part. Just give them the ones that So that's what's created a big kerfuffle, I guess, and, a few things were said to Mr. Brown. By the foreman of Public Works was, there's a rumor around council that our company's taking the municipality to task, or what task, I'm not sure, and so I took that as I was doing you guys, the council for some reason.
we've heard of anything to that effect.
Well, that was put to Mr. Brown by your foreman of Public Road, and that you guys won't be using shit from this pit until I'm not involved, so you're gonna be waiting for a while.
Again, I don't think that's never been reviewed by council. That does not come up at all in any.
Well, I don't know why it's coming up on my plate all the time.
Yeah, I don't.
What's this, so,
No, it's the Public Manager.
the Public Works.
Yeah, aware.
Well, we'll have administration review the process.
Can I interrupt for a second? I am really lost on what is going on.
If it is doing with the personnel issue, we won't be discussing it
No,
in an open session, but
No, I'm about the shale pit.
My understanding is that more has been taken out of what the original tender documents had requested. Part of that will be at council's direction, as you had directed additional roads be done. How that was handled between the contractor and the owner or the manager of the pit will be what I will review.
Yeah, because at least if we didn't know in midway or as to how many yards you actually were gonna do with road work. Craig and I talked a few times, but I was asked and he didn't know either how much you were doing. It was just, we're doing the next stretch, but no yardages were ever entailed with it, right? And that puts us in a bad spot for the first customer that was supposed to be there before the municipality.
And I think what happens, what we've done in the last 2 years is that we've done it by, not necessarily by per job. We're trying to get as much done as we can, and of course, that depends on timing, et cetera, and the amount of money within budgets. And doing it in that form, rather than the old form of having a job description of so many yards. What happens is that sometimes we require more, what the tender was, and that creates issues, so we've done the tenders a little different the last 2 years. So that's where that.
Well, you don't put them out that way all the time, but you wanted, I forget what it was, the yardage in clay and then 400 yards for this. So that only totals like 2,200 yards. Well, that's a long way from 10,000 and nobody knew that.
Yeah, I think that came up with the road rebuild that we had that came up and decided we'd go ahead with it as council. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's where that probably came from. Now, as far as having an availability situation, that was to deal with the person given the tender. There was no criteria set. We only had certain amount we're going to get, because we wanted the pricing of it as to what it would be, and then the amount would be determined when the jobs were being done.
But you had pre-job questions were asked then as to how far is this going? Well,
Yeah.
there was no stakes put in so that a guy could go do a measurement on his own.
Yeah.
But you just don't go from here to there. Well, where's there?
Yeah, and there may have been a communication breakdown in there somehow with our people and the people that were doing the work, so we'll look into
Yeah.
that and see how we can get that to be better. You know, as I said, we're trying to accomplish as much as we could
Yeah.
accomplish this year with road work.
Well, it would have been nice to know ahead of time as you were doing it as to what the estimated yardage was gonna be, so one could stay ahead of
Exactly.
the program.
Communication.
I think the biggest problem is, Murray, is we're sitting here and we're presuming that it's just raw shale. And we don't even think about the overburden or whatever.
No, that's why we brought pictures.
Yeah, no, and I admire the pictures, like they're beautiful.
Yeah.
And they tell the story. So, but that's a considerable cost to get rid of the overburden.
Yeah, exactly. So
And-
why is it up to Jeff and I to
Yeah.
do it on our own?
Murray, did Hodgson, after that discussion me and you had, did he come back and get rid of that overburden we talked about? Or he didn't?
No, Nathan did it with this D7.
Okay.
And at that time, it was to be settled, but Hodgson was sending you guys a bill for the cat work. Well, I just got notified, I had to ask Nathan, like I said, you're not gonna be stuck. With the hours put in there for your equipment and not get paid. I said, one of us will pay you, but decide who it is. Preferably not us.
It looks like a considerable expense. It
It
is.
is
Yeah.
expense. Like, we're looking at a minimum of, I don't know how many thousands of dollars it's gonna take. Cause it's gonna need big equipment now, because we've gotta move everything that was already. Like, you don't make any money if you're moving material more than once.
No,
So we're moving this would be the third time, so,
So we'll work on that
okay,
communication side of it. I'll do some research and administration check into it.
okay, so who's working on the money part of it?
Well, administration will
Will you look after that?
We'll deal with that.
Jeff also gave me a thing that he wanted you guys to look at. He wants, I'll just pass that to you. Yeah. and read
It
it
looks
out.
like a guideline.
guidelines that he wants to see in the future too, so. And I agree with him.
Are we able to those photos or can I make a photocopy of them?
You can keep them too.
Yeah.
Or you want them to move? I'll keep them.
We don't have it?
No.
Oh, black and white.
Yeah.
So I
We can
guess
make a photocopy. If you could do them in color, please, Melissa.
there's quite a hole there now, I know that, since everything's been yanked out of her.
Can I ask them one more question? Like, how much, is there considerable more there? Or just,
Well,
just like.
there is there, but not the way it's going.
No,
I'm
no,
not gonna
I understand that.
be Stripping at our expense.
No,
and then-
I understand that, Murray. It's just, I don't even know where this is from Jeff's house, so it's gotta be close to the valley, I presume, so.
The other thing that was brought up was when a contractor comes in with 3 or 4 trucks going down the same road day after day from 7 till whenever they quit. People that lived along that road gotta have dust put down. Nobody likes to sit there every day with having to clean their kitchen table because it's got dust on it. And we did hear complaints about that, and that's, and all that was said by, we'll just drive slow. Well, drive slow don't help after the road.
We did talk about the dust control, but I know that was after the fact.
Yeah, but that's
So we
not
have
the
to
way.
plan for that for
The future,
events.
like, we had to do it when we did the stuff for Maple Leaf. That was done before we started hauling.
Okay. We will have administration work with you on this as to what transpired, how the communication.
And in the future, the public works operator or manager will notify me, not Jeff. Jeff doesn't want to be bugged all the time,
Well, again, if,
if you don't mind.
yeah, most,
I would ask for him to put that in writing so that we know that we're dealing with the manager versus the property owner.
exactly. Most time we deal with property owners, not staff.
You have the agreement.
Well, we have a service agreement that we have.
Yeah.
Send you whatever he wants.
Or a copy of it.
Yeah, if you can work with the administration, we'll see what works best as to
And
what,
then send you the documentation.
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
okay?
Yep.
Thank
No, thank you very much.
Up here. What?
So I've done another directive here, so I've got it in writing. Yeah, we'll receive it first and then we'll see what that's like. Yeah.
Oh, it's loading door right there. It be resolved that the delegation by Murray Kozak with respect to the shale pit be received. Moved by Councilor second Councilor Fisher, all in favor? Carried.
See if
And
that
it's resolved
captures.
that the administration be directed to review the process with contractor or pit owner on volumes of material and dust control required and provide a subsequent report to council and the pit owner. Moved by Councilor McDonald, seconder, Councilor Gullett. All in favor? All right. Okay, so going down to finished business.
Yes.
All right. It be resolved that the correspondence from municipal emergency coordinator Leanne Pattison with respect to a planned tabletop exercise on September 16th be received. Moved by Councilor Fisher, second Councilor Gullett. Discussion.
So for council, if this is something that you could, your calendar, so that you know the meeting on the 16th is likely to run about an hour later than what a normal council meeting would. And I'm checking with the fire chief as well as members from the medical center to participate.
We give them a second.
Yes, we've got Fisher and all.
All in favor? Okay, be it resolved that a debenture bylaw be prepared based on the at-large levy utilizing a per parcel method of taxation, excluding therefrom roll numbers associated with cemeteries, cairns, and if anything else wants to be brought up at this time, let's include in there. Councillor McDonald?
What about these? We got, I guess it wouldn't come into play with this with across the river, like when we got them. That wouldn't come into, it's more for
No,
utility.
this is that large. Anything further with put in there?
Any of the halls.
Halls,
Carol, Nesbitt.
yeah, halls would have to be council's decision. So at the time that the special levy was implemented with the last set of special levies, the amount of grant to the halls was doubled so that it would account for it. Council's call as to how they want this treated, and again, it could be as part of the granting process. But if you would like to include halls, we can set it up that way. And
No, there's halls do get service by, especially rural ones with the graders, et cetera, who are housed in the new building. So they do get service from them. I'm sure that that's something to really eliminate.
We're just having a hard time in our base route. Hard time now, it's in these small halls. Make a little bit now, you know, that's my concern. Graham said, that's all.
Yeah. Well, it's always a concern for this, and they. We already have, as I said, as we noticed, we have it in our funding formula, our grants. So it's probably easier to put it into the grant, additional grant, rather than to exclude them from special levies. So it's up to the council.
Yeah, I'm personally for excluding them just based on the fact of the cost to run the buildings and what they mean to, say, Nesbitt and Carroll.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that, taking halls.
Anything else?
if I could ask council, you're okay with doing it as the per parcel so that it avoids doing anything on assessment for ag lands that increase?
That's what we did for the shop for when we bought up Perry, right? The first time.
Yes.
So it'd be the same. That's what I was getting.
So move it.
I'll move that.
Councilor Jones, seconder. Patch, all in favor? Okay, be resolved that the variation application number V2/2025 to allow for a reduction in the front yard setback from 25 feet to 14 feet to account for where the house is situated and allow for a 4-foot deck and stairs in front of the house within the RG residential general zone on part of lots 1/1-6, block 6, plan 32 BLTO at 357 Main Street, Mount East, Manitoba, under Washington, be approved. Moved by. Okay, Councilor Dawes moved, seconder. Councilor McDonald, discussion?
I'm just curious if this just may be a format, but if you're going from 25 to 14 with a 4-foot deck,
That includes the
That includes
4-foot
the deck.
deck in it. So the house, when they measured and placed it.
Yeah.
They placed it measuring from the road, not the. So the house was a little bit closer than it should have been, so we would have been doing, it was more than what I could approve as a minor variation. So it would have had to come forward as a variation anyway. But when they were doing it, they also want to be able to put, it's not a deck that they're going to sit out and have coffee on. It's just the deck area to get them into the door.
oh, okay.
Okay, all in favor? Whereas information has been received from Precision Land Solutions on behalf of Norman Granger with respect to a proposed tile drainage project located on northwest 21-818 and northeast 28-18 WPM. And whereas no concerns have been expressed by the Public Works Manager, therefore be it resolved as a request for tile drainage permission and consent from Precision Land Solutions on behalf of Norman Granger to supply and install tile drainage in northwest 21-818 and northeast 28-17 WPM be approved subject to, number one, any municipal lands impacted being returned to their original state following installation with all work to be completed as in consultation with Public Works Manager. And number two, receipt of permit application fee and deposit in accordance with drainage bylaw number 41-2024. Moved by Councillor Fisher, second Councillor Hatch. Discussions? All in favor? Be it resolved that Manitoba Municipalities online report for the month of July 2025 be received and any necessary actions to the bylaw maintenance program be hereby approved. Moved by Councillor McDonald, seconder. Mr. Jones, discussion? All in favor? Okay, be resolved that this regular meeting now adjourns to an in-camera meeting to discuss matters in preliminary states related to enforcement of documents or premises as per subsection 152, 3B, 4, 5, and 6 of the Municipal Act, and all matters discussed in camera are confidential until discussed in an open meeting as per section 83(1)D of the Municipal Act. Moved by Councillor Hatch, seconder. Councillor Jones, all in favor? Okay. Be resolved that this in-camera meeting is now resumed back to a regular meeting. Moved by Councillor Jones, second Councillor McDonald, all in favor? So,
We're just going to receive and always follow up with normal action on this one.
this early?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I got that. Be resolved that the correspondence from Cheryl Gullett with respect to unsigned premises at 108 5th Street be received. Moved by Councillor Fisher, seconder. Councillor Hatch, all in favor? Carried. So you don't do receive only on Kelsey?
Yeah.
Be resolved that the report from Kelsey Business Solutions related to cybersecurity training for year 2 be received. Moved by Councillor McDonald, seconder. Councillor Jones, all in favor? Carried. Be resolved that the RCMP quarterly police report for January 1st, 2025 to March 31st, 2025 be received. Moved by Councillor Fisher, seconder. Councillor Gullett, all in favor? Carried. Whereas there has been no suspension of councillor owned by council, but rather sanctions imposed. And whereas the Municipal Act and Code of Conduct regulations indicate that a councillor cannot fulfill his duties until sanctions have been dealt with. And whereas the sanctions imposed could be completed and the member resumed his duties in a short period of time, therefore be it resolved that sanctions as outlined be confirmed. Moved by Councillor Hatch, seconder. Councillor Fisher, all in favor? Okay, we're going to Strickland.
Yes.
Be resolved that the animal control invoice be amended to remove charges for the apprehension of orphan kittens. Moved by Councillor Jones, seconder Councillor Hatch. All in favor?
Interventions discussion.
Okay. Be it resolved that this meeting is now adjourned to meet again on Tuesday, September 16th, 2025 at 9 a.m. at the municipal office at Wawanesa. Moved by Councillor Hatch, seconder. Councillor McDonald, all in favor?